This challenging exercise is a favorite of mine for private lessons. It holds value for riders and horses at every stage on the training scale and effectively teaches skills from basic balance to the flying changes. Each level of the shaping scale can benefit. If you or your horse is at basic attempt and just learning to steer, this pattern helps teach direct and indirect rein and when to use which one. If you can steer but it's fairly rudimentary still and precision is a challenge, the frequent changes of direction help to teach balance. A horse and rider, learning to maintain a steady rhythm, benefit from increased impulsion through the smaller circles. Refining the riding journey at straightness level involves finessing the changes of flexion and bend, with moments of straightness in between. At contact level, we have all previous criteria, plus a consistent outline through all changes, including transitions. Now we are practicing the cue sequence for simple and flying lead changes, which develop between contact and proof levels. I've developed a rider shaping scale based on the equine shaping scale. Check it out here. I'll put the link in the description too. Here's the pattern. It looks simple enough. It's just a figure eight that repeats itself as it moves along the arena. Depending on the length of your arena, set up 6 cones as pictured here, or 8 if your arena is longer. The cones should be on the quarter line. To find the quarter line, first find the center line. It goes from A to C. And then divide the remaining part of the arena in half again. The cones should be at least 1 letter apart if riding the pattern alone, and if you're doing it with another rider, you want more like 15 meters between cones. If your horse is in rehab for any kind of injury, remember that smaller circles are usually not recommended, so this pattern is best saved for later. To warm up, start with large circles of 20-meter width, or about half of your arena. Allow as much rein as your horse wants with contact still to stretch and warm up. Keep a gentle bend, matching the size of your circle, and go both directions. Then you can begin walking the pattern. Walk first to notice what your horse tends to do. Starting at A, always do the right cone first with a right circle, then the left cone with a left circle. Move on to the second pair of cones and repeat. Pay attention to what your horse does. Does he always speed up when you turn left? Cut the right circles too close? Gather data during your walk. Now let's get into the meat of the pattern. We will start partway up the training scale at straightness level because I'm going to assume most of you are riding horses that go and turn when you ask, for the most part, and tend to keep on going without being nagged. If those statements are true, your horse will be working around straightness level. I'll provide modifications for higher and lower levels in a moment. Now at this level, our goal is to refine the switch between circle directions. Remember to stay the same distance away from every cone all the way around it. If your cones are on the quarter lines and your arena is standard width, you should be making 10-meter circles. On the last quarter of each circle, begin the process of preparing for the new circle. Change flexion, then bend, then your posting diagonal if you're trotting, in that order. The order is important. You'll see why when we get to increasing the pattern difficulty. To maintain your distance from the cones and improve bend, use shoulder yields. Not sure what a shoulder yield is? If you comment on this video, I'll make a shoulder yield tutorial. In between circles, add your other knee to straighten your horse's body for a couple of strides before taking the new bend. This tests balance and straightness are both in self-carriage. If your circles are too small, your horse will struggle around them and not be able to maintain rhythm. Many riders try to change their diagonal first, and then the horse's flexion and bend. But if you do that, you start by putting yourself off balance. Change the horse first, then change yourself. Related to this mistake is rushing. You don't have to have everything organized in one stride. Take 1 stride, or more if you need, for changing each component in preparation for your new circle. On the first stride, change your flexion. On the next stride, change your bend. And finally, change your posting diagonal on the 3rd stride. If you are ready for the circle too late, simply start preparing earlier. Lack of straightness between circles always affects the quality of the next circle. If your horse is leaning to the left, your next right circle is going to go wide. Check frequently for self-carriage. Here are some modifications to make the pattern easier if you or your horse are not yet riding at straightness level. In your mind, divide each circle into quarters, then ride 1 quarter at a time. It is much easier to make an entire circle round if each quarter circle is round. Repeat a circle as many times as you need until it is sorted out. This gives you more time to fix falling in or falling out or rhythm changes before it is time to change directions again. Once that's easier, you can stay on one figure 8 until it is correct before trying to travel up the pattern with the straight line in between. Next, you can always slow down. Trot is too hard? Walk, and be precise in the walk. Or walk the hard circle and trot the easier one. Focus on your rhythm. Speeding up and slowing down randomly are associated with losses of line also. If you maintain a regular rhythm, your horse is much more likely to be able to maintain a regular balance also. And for those of you working on contact level and eyeing the flying lead changes, here's for you. You should also ride each circle in a series of quarter circles. On the first quarter of each circle, ask your horse to start the turn. On the second quarter of each circle, make sure that you still have your bend. On the third quarter of each circle, make sure your rhythm is still correct. And on the fourth quarter of each circle, begin switching your flexion and bend. It should be completed by the first quarter of the new circle, allowing for 1 to 2 strides straight towards letter C before beginning the new circle. Between figure 8s, you have a bit more time to be straight on your way to letter C. Use this time to check self-carriage. Adding transitions makes this pattern much harder. See if you can trot each circle, change flexion and bend in the trot, then walk the straight part, and 1 or 2 strides later be trotting again on the new circle. Shortening the amount of time between transitions increases the difficulty. Try riding the circles in counterflexion. This is a core workout for your horse. You could also try shortening the stride on the circles and lengthening on the straight lines. This begins developing the muscles for collection. Next, you can add some canter. At first, only canter one direction of circles and trot the other side to give yourself time to resolve any errors in balance, rhythm, or straightness. Then begin simple lead changes. Ideally, we will change flexion and bend while still in the canter, but if your horse is not yet balanced enough for this, first trot, then change flexion and bend, and lastly canter. This provides more time between transitions. Lastly, we can add flying lead changes. This is why we were changing flexion, then bend, then diagonal all through this pattern. In the original lead of canter, on the final quarter of the circle, change your flexion, then bend, and lastly change your seat for the new canter and give the new canter cue. Treat it like another upward transition. If the change fails, don't lose your flexion and bend, return calmly to the trot, and re-cue the new canter. Rhythm is of utmost importance. Rhythm should not decrease or increase when flexion and bend are changed, or the lead change will be compromised. Enjoy practicing, discovering, and refining on your journey up the shaping scale. Do you like riding pattern tutorial videos? Let me know in the comments. There could be lots more.